Hai, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Nazaruddin Ghozali Fatwa and my friend Rassyd Putra Pratama. We are from Group 1. Today we will explain about the definitions of literature. We will separate the definitions of literature into four sections. The first one, we will give you explanations about definitions of literature based on etymology and terminology. The second one, we will give you an explanations about definitions of literature based on the experts. The third one, we will give you an explanations about definitions of literature based on dictionary and Wikipedia. And the last one, we will give you conclusions about definitions above.
Number 1. Definition of literature based on etymology and terminology. Etymology. Literature, in its broadest sense, is any written work. Literature comes from Latin literatura or literatura, which means writing format with letters. Terminology. Literature, a body of written work. Literature has traditionally been applied to those imaginative works of poetry and prose, distinguished by the intention of their author and the perceived aesthetic excellence of their execution. Literature may be classified according to a variety of systems, including language, national origin, historical period, genre, and subject matter.
Definitions of literature have varied over time. In Western Europe, prior to the 18th century, literature as a term indicated all books and writing. A more restricted sense of the term emerged during the Romantic period, in which it began to demarcate imaginative literature. Contemporary debates over what constitutes literature can be seen as returning to the older, more inclusive notions of what constitutes literature. Cultural studies, for instance, takes as its subject of analysis both popular and minority genres, in addition to canonical works. Number 2. Definitions of literature based on the experts. The first one is Color, 2004 first, says that in most cases, literature is referred to as the entirety of written expressions, with the restrictions that not every written document can be categorized as literature in the more exact sense of the word. The second one, Pickering, James H. and Hooper, Jeffrey D. 1981, 307, says that literature is a uniquely human activity, born of man's timeless desire to understand, express, and finally share experiences. The third one, Grail Marcus and Werner Sahler, 2009, says that literary means not only what is written, but what is voiced, what is expressed, what is invented in whatever form. The fourth one, Henry van Dyke, says that literature consists of those writings which interpret the meanings of nature and life in words of charm and power, touched with the personality of the author, in aesthetic form of permanent interest. The fifth one, Wallach and Warren, 1963-22, says that the term literature seems best if we limit it to the art of literature, that is, to imaginative literature. Literature is also produced by imaginations of the author. Literature is not just a document of fact. It is not just a collection of real events, though it might happen in the real life. Literature can create its own world as a product of the unlimited imaginations. And the last one from Hirsch 1978-34 says that let me then end with my own stipulative definitions of literature. Literature includes any text worthy to be taught to students by teachers of literature. When these texts are not being taught to students in other departments of a school or university. Literature is a form of human expression, but not everything expressed in words. Even when organized and written down is counted as a literature, those writings that are primarily informative, technical scholarly, journalistic will be excluded from the rank of literature by most, to not at all, critics. Certain forms of writing, however, are universally regarded as belonging to literature as an art. Individual attempts with this form are said to succeed if they possess something called artistic merit and to fail if they don't. The nature of artistic merit is less easy to define than to recognize. The writer need not even pursue it to attain it. On the contrary, a scientific exposition might be of great literary value and a pedestrian form of none at all.
Number 3. Definition of literature based on the Wikipedia or dictionary. Wikipedia and dictionary definition. Wikipedia. Literature broadly refers to any collection of written or oral work, but it more commonly and narrowly refers to writing specially considered to be an art form, especially prose fiction, drama, and poetry, in contrast to academic writing and newspapers. In recent centuries of the definition has expanded to oral literature, much, much of it has been transcribed. The 11th edition of Merriam-Webster Collegiate Dictionary. The 11th edition of Merriam-Webster Collegiate Dictionary considers literature to be writing having excellence of form or expression and expressing idea of permanent or universal interest. Number 4. Conclusion. After read the definition above, we can conclude that literature is a work in the form of oral or written form as a medium of expression for others and has artistic value that can change over time and has its own uniqueness depending on the area where the literary work originates.
Thank you. That's all from us. If there are any questions, feel free to ask us through the WA or comment sections below. Thank you.